Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Let me first apologize for starting late. Please can you take your seats? Thank you very much. I would like to formally welcome you all to today's project closure workshop. Let me first thank our participants in the room. Thank you very much for making time to join us. I would also like to thank the participants online. If you allow me, my name is Pamela Burgi. I'm the Senior Officer for the Global Green Growth Institute here in Rwanda. So I would like to first welcome our country representative of the Global Green Growth Institute, Daniel. I would also like to welcome our representative on behalf of REMA, Government of Rwanda, Ms. Rachel Tushabia. I would also like to welcome representatives from NIRDA, CPCIC, RMC. Welcome to the media that are joining us today. Welcome to the NGOs that are joining us today. Welcome to our senior managers from the private sector. Today we are gathered here for the purpose of presenting our project update results for the GCF Readiness Project. We will have presentations from our project manager for GCF Readiness. We will also have presentations from our Green Buildings Officer and also a presentation from the GCF representative who's joining us online, Mr. Banga. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us today. So without further ado, I will ask the GGGI country representative to come and give his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you again, Pamela, and thank you all of you for joining us today. I am just scanning the room to see who is here, and I'm glad it's a full room. But on its agenda, just like many countries have committed to transition to a green and climate resilient economy. And this project, in my understanding and from the experience that we've had, has met most of the objectives of the readiness. One of it being to enhance the capacity in terms of numbers. If you look at this slide, you will see that we are talking of more than 800 local major workshops were implemented to establish the district level environmental protection committees. This is an important policy or framework or platform that the government have set up at the highest level, but it is to be instituted at the subnational level. And we are happy to say that these committees has been operationalized through this project by meeting and creating awareness in regards to what will be their role, what will be their responsibilities, and the challenges they could meet as members of the environmental protection committees. And there were 5 assessment reports, which once the project is concluded, you will all have access to. This is all on the institutional capacity. And when you look at the private sector engaged, we've been able to look at 75 staff within the district one-stop centers. And there has been a lot of awareness in terms of communication using both the print and the TV. And we've also had a lot of campaigns in the different both global and regional events that has been happening. And for the extended stakeholders, you will see that we have had opportunity to train 60+ journalists to look at investigative reporting skills when it comes to green growth. Because when we understand what green growth is, especially in the context of Rwanda, but also within the different sectors that people work on, then it is important, it will be even easier for the public to have that required or needed awareness. So it is our hope that the results that you can see on this slide has helped Rwanda not only to prepare and be ready to transition to a green and climate resilient economy, but also to set an example as a country that could share its lessons to fellow peers within the region, but also globally. Our expectation is that as we follow up on these results, as we follow up, especially at the subnational level, we want to see how these outcomes will translate to projects, it will translate to jobs, it will translate even to opportunities that will positively affect the livelihoods of the people of the country. So I want to thank you once again. As we go into the event, please feel free to ask questions, feel free to interact with us, because you will see more details of what you have seen on this snapshot. Welcome once again, and we are happy to have you on this closing event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Without any further delay, I would like to ask Ms. Rachel to come to give her remarks from REMA. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Director General of REMA, I'm glad that I'm representing her. She got the meeting to attend, which was so crucial. But here we are. Rwanda, as the National Designated Authority, is pleased to have partners on board who help us attain a climate resilient Rwanda. And we are glad that partners like GGGI came on board, because environment has been considered as a cross-cutting issue in national planning as we move towards achieving the Vision 2050, as we move towards achieving the national strategy for transformation in Rwanda. We are aiming at having more partners on board, including private sector, including local NGOs, without leaving behind media, because they are the channel through which education, environment, and advocacy for environment and climate change is done. And we are pleased to say that the trainings that have been carried out, REMA has been a partner to ensure that, for instance, environmental committees at different levels, districts and sectors, are trained. These committees have members of different sectors of the economy, through which we believe when they are trained, at least planning from the grassroots level up to the national level can be attained, and implementation of what has been planned for environment and climate change is attained. We can't do this without the help of the private sector, because they are the solution makers. They are the people we anticipate to develop different projects towards climate resilience. So with these few remarks. I just want to say thank you, and we look ahead to working together to ensuring a sustainable Rwanda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rachel, representing the government of Rwanda. Our next presenter, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Banga from the Green Climate Fund. He'll be presenting online. Mr. Banga, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Want to confirm that you also hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak. We did not prepare formal presentations, but on behalf of this year, and particularly on behalf of the Africa Regional Desk, I would like to say a few words and thank the NDA for inviting us to join this meeting, which for us is absolutely important. As you know, the DCF is a country-driven fund, and our objective is to support the country, particularly through the readiness program, so they can build the capacity of the local stakeholders, including the private sector, develop the institutional frameworks and the policies that are required to implement an climate change project, but also implement the adaptation plan. The readiness program is also designed to support the country to build a pipeline of projects that they can submit to the GCF and have funding to implement the national climate change priorities. And the last objective of the readiness program is exactly what you are doing here today, which is to share knowledge. And this is particularly important, not only for Rwanda, but also for us at the GCF, because it is an opportunity for us to learn or also understand what are the best practices, what are the lessons that have been learned throughout the implementation of the project, and how we can better design and adapt the readiness program to better serve you. So it is really a great opportunity for us, and we want to take this opportunity to say again thank you to the NGA of Rwanda, and thank you to GGGI, the delivery partner, which has served in the implementation of this readiness program. And we are looking forward to hearing what are the best practices, what are the best lessons learned, but what are also the challenges that you have faced that we at the DCF can help address. So these are the few words that I would like to say, and again, I would like to apologize on behalf of Kabish, who is in another meeting right now, and he won't be able to join us. But he actually asked me to say these few words, and thank you very much for inviting us to join this important meeting. We look forward to the lesson learned. We want to learn with you and improve the readiness program to better serve you. Thank you so much, and we wish you a very productive workshop.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banga. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate you joining. If you don't mind staying online, we have 2 more presentations before our brief coffee break. For the participants online, please feel free to drop your message and your questions or comments in the chat box, and we will address them before the coffee break. I would now like to call upon the Global Green Growth Institute Green Urbanization Officer, JP, to give his presentation, and he will be doing the presentation with our Green Buildings Officer, Diraj. Thank you.
You see, these 2 years, just because of the COVID pandemic. Actually, it was for 18 months, but extended due to the pandemic. Happy, we thank everyone who collaborated with us for its implementation. We are delivery partner, but we do work with different institutions, as mentioned earlier. So, without delaying, I can give you taking from what Joshua said, this readiness is about the, you can go to this side, is about the initiatives that we know, everyone knows that the climate is changing and we cannot ignore it. So this is why countries, including Rwanda, decided to develop some strategies and policies, starting from ourselves, the Green Growth and Climate Resilience Strategy, and some NDCs currently updated. So the GCF, in a nutshell, was created to support those countries to take the paradigm shift for economic development, but also being responsible for what is being done. So readiness is one of the support provided, focusing on the institutional capacity development, but also trying to lay ground on other initiatives, including preparation of the investment. So on the government of Rwanda, starting 2013, this is to give you why the readiness was developed. We are now strategically orienting our development to urbanization, green and sustainable urbanization, because the government knows that this has even other impact than urbanizing, but looking at social and economic. So urbanization is a strategic orientation for Rwanda, but this also has to be done while planning the major inner city infrastructure network. These are roads, drainage, but also allocating lands for residential, for commercial, industrial, that are integrated so that people movement and goods movement can benefit either other alternative way of moving, e-mobility, non-motor transportation, but also trying to make people benefit this network to create jobs. Exchange are easier in cities which are planned and accessible. So after providing those, if I may say, spatial and physical plans that are integrating or enabling the green city development, now it was time to go and see implementers, so that we are focusing on local actors now, the district, the sectors, and other people operating at lower levels, because we are confident that we have now the strategy, the plan, and policies at national level that can support or guide the implementation at local levels. So this is the rationale for the project. Next is now to see the project logical framework. Tamba. You are moving faster. We are at the slide number 3, if I'm not mistaken, to see the project logical framework. As I said, we have good plans, we have the policies and strategies, and added to that, we have also regulations. We have regulations, we have institutions operating, so we needed to strengthen the coordination and capacities at lower levels. To do that, we have first to look at institutions, the thematic sector working groups, and how are they operating. The environment and natural resources sector have more thematic sectors, including lands, including environment and climate change, and others. So we wanted to see how those can synergize and operate as toward one common and shared goal, and how these the different strategies can be translated into local plan and actions. Second was to go now to the production and consumption. We have to be responsible. We have natural resources, but you cannot benefit and ignore the future generation. So Rwanda, to take action on that, there was establishment of a center for cleaner production and climate innovation. This was also supported as a new center, how it can position itself, how it can reach out the different stakeholders and position itself to serve a mandate of advising industries and also bringing in new technologies in production and consumption toward the economic growth of Rwanda. And also, as I said, we have the plan at national level, but you have to be to also make them alive or reach the low level to be mainstreamed. Mainstreaming here, if I may say, is like you put up a light, but you have to remove any barrier that can block the light to reach each corner of your room. So if you don't remove those things that is blocking the light, you may have the light, but the whole room or each corner is not lit. So the mainstreaming is, we are taking from national to local level, so that at the local level district sectors, they can reflect what is in our national strategic orientation towards environmental protection and climate resilience. So we are taking key sectors which are a contributor when you look at the Rwanda emission source, transport, agriculture, and urbanization, so that the national land use master plan that have prioritized to go green, to be environmentally responsible, and avoid any impact or any contribution to the climate change can be also reflected in the district land use plan, which are the next level of planning. So we did an assessment to see how this can be done better by the time we'll be developing the district land use plan. Next was to now to guide. We have developed the master plans, second and city master plan, but they also need to be implemented at neighborhood level. The neighborhood I'm talking about where people settle and operate. We have the zonings, we have the network of loads, you have the land allocations, but when it comes to the where people, the household, I mean individuals, live and operate, we need to guide how this is planned to ensure that they have supporting element and also considering the environmental and climate-related concerns. So we see in detail what we mean by the neighborhood guideline, but also, as the country rep said, we want to extend our stakeholders. We did a lot, being in action, being in policy, being in strategies, but now we want people to know what we are doing. For the public benefit, for us, we don't advertise, but we communicate. And let people know what is being done and what can be their contributions, because it is a shared responsibility. The government is doing better in erosion control, in forestry management, in wetland management, also avoiding the impact of climate change. But also people of the general public need to know what is happening and what can be their role. This is why we are using the media as a tool for mass communication and the training provided for them. Now we are showing how actors are out there to talk our stories and mobilize people to act as players in the environment protection and climate change education. Now in practice, you have the Green Building Minimum Compliance System, which is also supporting us to use resources wisely, being energy consumption, water, and materials. But we wanted now the practitioners to know that we have this and they can even advocate. This is about the professional bodies, about the clinical staff at one-stop centers, and the other who now can have to know what we plan and what we intend to do for us to be to use for efficient use of natural resources, but also reduce our contribution to emissions, to greenhouse gas emissions. This is about the project. Now we can go to the result. We have now So this is just to show you how the project is implemented. You saw the GCF representative talking about. GCF is the fund provider. The NEDA or REMA gives us asked us to do as a delivery partner, and we do coordinate. The NEDA will be overseeing. So we use our own resource, GGGI, but most of the time we do also outsource for activities like you say the trainings or that other activities that we don't have resources available in our institution. We do outsource, but to assure that we follow all the guidelines provided toward the outcomes of the project. So this is just to show you how the project was implemented. Now I can go to the result. This is a summary. We are talking about subnational levels, even though this was the main beneficiaries. So we reached out to local government, but also other local stakeholders and community through those channels. The good things for countries like Rwanda is to have a well-structured administration framework. So when you go to the district, local government to meet the executive committees, these are mayors, ES, and other. Then you meet also the technical staff. These go to the district sector and sale. So through our outreach and campaign, we ensure that we meet those local government leaders and technical staff, but also through the established framework where people gather at local level, like the Joint Action Development Forum, where NGOs, civil societies, PSF are made to discuss the agenda of the district. So we ensure their representation where possible, but also the district council, which are the community representative. And lastly, we reached out to those district environmental protection committees. They are established just to be like, to keep an eye and advise on what's happening on the ground, where institutions like REMA cannot be fully present. So you will be operating to support the district environmental protection, alerting the leaders, but also advising for better ways of doing when it comes to environmental management and climate resilience. So through consultation, through awareness, outreach, dissemination, and workshops, we managed to reach, when you look at the 19 districts, we went there, other meeting, being national, being there, local. So in the estimate we have, based on the meetings we conducted, we can say that more than 800 plus were reached, and now they know what is meant by green growth, what is their role to play in climate in environmental protection, and even some concepts and principles they have to bear in mind when they are planning their development and strategic orientation. Other beneficiaries were at national. We saw that there's an institutional capacity development that we are made next. We worked with the National Designated Authority, which is overseeing, likely is the Rwanda, also Rwanda Environment Management Authority, which is overseeing what is happening at the country level. Can I see the next slide? Yes. So is the REMA, Rwanda Environment Management Authority, which is also the NDA, were supported in communication knowledge management. As I said, we are doing a lot, but we also need some people and development partners to know what is being done and what can be their role and contribution. So this is based on information we share with them. So they are also improved service delivery. You know, REMA have some service to deliver to the public for just for the sake of environment protection and other regulations. We also supported the land management and use authority in terms of communicating towards the new adopted master plan, national use master plan, but also the guideline we developed. We support the center or the authority to guide implementation of this master plan. And as I said, we're also aware that there are some land users, key land users, agriculture, transport, human settlement, and public and infrastructures, that we need to keep an eye on them, on how we plan and how their respective projects are designed. So we did an assessment to see the National Use Master Plan has provided for that. Now that we're going to the District Land Use Development Plan, what can be done better so that nothing is left behind? As I said, the right have to reach each corner so that we're sure that the source is, the streaming is done. So we did this assessment and the reports are there, and we are sure it will guide the ultimate planning at local level. Also, the Center for Criminal Production and Economic Innovation, we supported the stakeholders' engagement and outreach. It is establishing, it is positioning itself, so we supported it to reach at least some level at national and even international in some conferences and other platforms. So now we have a website of REMA, which is upgraded, and importantly, the climate portal. The climate portal is a repository of information, but also we put it to the level of being more interactive. So anyone can access it, can log in and be given access at some levels to either submit or request information. So before it was waiting for people to, if there is a report coming from either Minister of Environment or Minister of Agriculture, to reach the portals to be done through other channels. But now, any focal person from any sectoral institution will be able to access the portal and submit information, and it will be alive. And another added value for it is what we call portal user forum, where the discussion will be live, ask question and answer, and it will be easy for the ADA or the REMA to communicate to the public, and also assuring that any update is given on due time. The two applications now are upgraded, and it is automated client response. Instead of waiting to go to REMA and ask who is doing my file, who is working on my file, now I'm talking about two, but I know that there are many services that need to be upgraded. But now the two, anyone applying either for plastics disposal or other permission given by REMA will be interacting with the officers or the authorizer and be given the feedback just online instead of knocking on the doors and coming and forth. So we disseminated the National Use Development Master Plan into 19 out of 27 districts. That was in collaboration with the Rwanda Management Use Authority, and during the dissemination is where now you see the appetite by local implementers. We want you to show us what you are requested to do. But if you are speaking in an expert language, we cannot contribute. But if you are coming here to sit and discuss with us in our own understanding, we can do better. So the dissemination is all about translating what is the national into local action in a more understandable context. And you also face the local context of what is planned in Nyagatare as a flat area cannot be the same as the western part, where they're dealing with erosion and landslide. So when you discuss with the real people who are on the ground, now you can know the orientation to take when it comes to local plan and strategic orientation. The advocacy for the cleaner production and circular economy were done. We developed a corporate brochure for the center, a stakeholder engagement strategy, but also facilitated to, if I may say, gathering the people and know what they need through the SMEs and some industries that are taking part of this move of circular economy and resource efficiency. Next. Yes, on the institutional capacity, I think I went through this. We did upgrade the portal, but also there have been some training provided. If the forum is going to be made by focal person in different institutions, so there have been training to show them what we are looking for them to support on. So they were given training on climate change communication, with some terminologies, some contents that have to be reported. When we're talking to the public, you need to put in what they do really understand. So climate communication need to be also understood by those people who will be using the forum. How we can we report? What are some indicators? What are some figures? What are the activities that need to be reported and say that you are contributing to the climate mitigation and adaptation. Also, we have to know what are international climate negotiation about, because the climate doesn't have border. So when you are negotiating, we need to see regionally, globally, and even country level. So these negotiation techniques and knowledge and skills were given to the forum user, data analysis, and content development. So now that the forum will be launched, we at least they have the basic requirement of what they will be doing. The environment and natural resource sector communication performance. So this sector is cross-cutting, it is within institution, so we wanted to know what is being communicated, either being the Ministry of Environment, being the Ministry of Infrastructure, Agriculture, and the other ministries that are contributing to the sector, to make sure that we communicate the same message and in a more focused way. So there are some gaps. We look at the website, we look at the channel, either Twitter, either whatever. So what we did was to assess and recommend what can be done better. Either all the content have to be updated. Can you make it more visible? Can you make it more accessible by the public? So that can extend the audience. When you know what the audience want, you can easily communicate. So the assessment and recommendation are also done to not for the ADDA, but also to other institutions that are part of the sector development. So the 5 assessment reports focused on agriculture, as I said, transport, human settlement, environment, natural resources, and public utilities, because they are the one highlighted by the National Energy Master Plan as contributors who have to keep an eye on them. They are land consumers. They are also, they can also, if they are not well planned at all levels, we cannot benefit the outcome of what you are doing, agglomeration and protection of the environment. So those reports will support the development of the district land use plan as a baseline information, and they have recommendation to be taken into consideration. Next. Still on the institutional capacity development, there have been, as I said, stakeholder engagement. We now have the website, the corporate brochure, social media campaign, and also documenting some success stories. There have been something done. The manager of CPSS will present and talk about this in detail, but also on the advocacy. Now there's an MOU with the Africa Leadership University that is also trying to promote resource efficiency in their curriculum. So they develop people who can do leadership but also contribute to the sector, subsector. So if we have people who understand resource efficiency from the academic side, we also have people in the working environment that do understand what can be done better in production and consumption. So we also, to position it, we supported the high-level business meeting on cleaner production to focus on increasing industrial profitability and circular economic agenda in Rwanda. Next. Yeah, these are about the positioning of the center. Now we have some commitment, high-level commitment, but also advocacy increased to move from linear to circular economy. But also, as I said, there have been some positioning at the region where the center participated in that transitioning Africa to circular economy. They managed to present where they are, but also what can be done better, especially on chemicals and waste management at the continent, but also at the country level. So these were the platform for the center to at least demonstrate that Rwanda is pursuing that. Luckily for the African Development Bank, they know that we are taking that advantage of circular economy and across the route in terms of resource use and minimize the emissions, but also the waste. So the center, we support it and we know to take off and develop further. At the institutional capacity development, as I said, we have these committees. The committees are established by the PM, the Prime Minister order, meaning that it was a high-level decision to ensure that whatever is being planned at the central level have to at least be managed or understood at local levels. So the committees are at district, sector, and cell levels. But now, because it was an early stage, we did a pilot to see people are there, do they understand what they are supposed to do, and who are they. So the members were gathered in the 4 districts, Muhanga, Nyagatare, Huye, and Rusizi. First of all, to make them know how they will be functioning, their roles and responsibilities as for the Prime Minister's order, but also discuss what they want from now, the expectation they have, either to the district management leadership or the national leadership, so that they can effectively function and serve their mandate. And this was we covered, because there are 9, we covered 6 of them, but also we are planning to extend and see in all districts, are they there, they understood what to do, and how we can collaborate more for them to serve the purpose of the establishment. The guideline, and they also extended stakeholders. As I said, we have the representative, the RIMC, the Rwanda Media Commission. We together with the Rwanda Environmental Journalists, backed was network, we gathered 60 journalists, and we gave them the 5 elements we think they can increase or advertise their reporting on the environment and climate. Most of the time you see the media talking about politics, economics, social status, but environment were somehow left behind. Now I want to bring them on the board and move together with them so that they can either inform us or disseminate what we are doing as a nation or as the country. So we gave them the basic information, if I may say, on environment and climate change concept first. Because they may report, most of the time they report there's landslide, there's a flooding, there's a forestry ban, but they have to know what is meant by environment and climate change so that they can report on what is happening on the ground instead of seeing what is the impact of the disaster we are having. They can know that government is doing something. Also, they know that have global commitment and Rwanda commitment, but also what we achieved. And ethical investigative reporting was to avoid misconceptions in environment and climate change. Environment is not about flooding, it's not about landslide, it's not about avoiding people to settle the wetland, but to understand what they have to really investigate with ethics, with journalism or media ethics. So we covered 60, but to make sure that they understood what they read, we did the pitching, there was a competition, they submitted the concept, and 5 of them, on next slide, were facilitated to go on the ground and document what is happening, either in erosion control, emission reduction through biogas, forestry, but also at the national commitment. So now they have that slogan, they are now bidukikije, and they have a moving group that will keep us, that will be working with us to assure that what we did is communicated, but also understand what the public want from us to do better. These are the five that we are awarded facilitation to document on-ground success for government initiatives. So, still in the guideline and stakeholder extended, the master plan still Kigali and this initiative of making the city more vibrant and attractive. There have been identification of some public spaces, open public spaces, but it was on rough, just saying we can put it here or there. So we supported in mapping them, but also giving them some design recommendation. Maybe there's no map, but the report can see where the city will say we need this bicycle taxi park to be upgraded. Maybe they can push back, but this be used as a public space. You see this R1X, how it is upgraded. So those were identified, but we did the mapping to see the size, the current situation, the characteristics. Is it the bushes or whatever, what can be done so that be like a public space. So we did a mapping of Gasabo, Gasabo, Chichutiro, and Nyarugenge, and we recommend some design because we know the shape, we know the size. So somewhere to put the benches, where to put kiosks and whatever, we submit that report. And now the city of Kigali started implementing it in some parts of the city. The neighborhood planning guideline, we want to know, we want the people use, we call them in our context, we call them the name is, physical plans, yeah, physical plan, where you lay down the plots, but the way it was being done is like you just stood to the vertical and horizontal, then people will settle in without any drainage, without any space for recreation, without any waste management facility, without even considering how this neighborhood is integrated within the city network. Accessibility, is it there, a road going there, how the people entering or going out the neighborhood will be facilitated, is it taxi motor accessing, how they can move inside, promoting walking, cycling. So we are putting principles and some physical and spatial consideration, socio-economic and climate change consideration into that planning, instead of just having a formation of houses where flood will come and hit the whole line. Now, with those guidelines, we put what is the requirement for accessibility. Can you consider the terrain? Is it on high slope or not? If it is on high slope, can you follow the contour line to minimize if the road can follow the contour line, you are sure at least that the erosion is reduced. So those guidelines and other guiding principles are part of the document we produced, and with other support of other development partners, now we are at the level of the land adjustment and whatever, but still keeping in mind that at that level we need to consider the environment, climate change, and from lower level to the next we go to the national level and you have environment and climate resilient human settlement that are even functional, because the more they are connected, the more they are variable, the more they are vibrant, people can live better and exchange economically. I think I'm on the last. No, before we go to that slide, because I'll be inviting my colleague Diraj to come and present. These are the dissemination we did. You see people on the ground verifying what we plan as human settlement. This is both urban and rural. Most of the time on the ground it can reflect different things. So on the dissemination we included, first was to make people staff and leaders understand what is the National Youth Master Plan and what we are asking them to do and what they can ask us to support, but also going on the ground and see if what we are proposing is reflecting the reality on the ground. Most of the time we see moving the boundaries or extending because of the terrain. Either it is a forestry, either it is a wetland, either it is on high slope, and also on fertile soil. We are now dealing with agriculture, residential, whatever quantity. So this decision is made when on the ground. That's what the physical verification of the boundaries proposed by the National Youth Master Plan. So I will invite my colleague Diraj to talk about the last and the important point.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Good morning, everyone. My name is Diraj Aramotu, Senior Officer Green Buildings for the Rwanda program of GGGI. So, as many of you are fully aware, the building sector is responsible for approximately 36% of the global energy consumption and almost 40% of the global CO2 emissions. And it's also very interesting to note that if you look at the Africa context, the building sector, it consumes close to approximately 60% of the energy that is produced and is responsible for almost 30% of the CO2 emissions that are coming from the continent. So that means the building sector plays a very critical role in our fight against climate change. And the government of Rwanda has taken a decisive action back in 2019, wherein they started, especially the institution which is Rwanda Housing Authority, when the building code, the Rwanda building code was due for review, they started looking at some of the green building principles that could be perhaps integrated into the Rwanda's building code. So that's how we have this particular document that you see on the screen, which is the Rwanda Green Building Minimum Compliance System, becoming a baseline for green buildings in Rwanda. This is a mandatory document that is applicable for all public buildings, especially new buildings and major renovations. And this particular document is applicable for category 4 and 5 buildings. So these include offices, retail buildings, industry, health facilities, hospitality, as well as other mixed use and leisure buildings. So the GCF readiness project has come as a blessing for the government of Rwanda to take this particular document to the subnational level, and the actors at the subnational level, especially the one-stop center staff, they play a very critical role in implementing some of the elements that are mentioned in the strategy. And as you can also see on the slide, 100% adoption of this minimum compliance document would result in a cumulative emission reduction of almost 5.5 million tons of CO2. So these are quite impactful emissions, and these emissions will also go a long way in contributing to Rwanda's NDC targets. So what we have essentially done is we have collaborated with Mininfra as well as the Ministry of Local Government and our partner Rwanda Housing Authority in collaboration with all the 30 districts. We had an opportunity to train all the approximately 75 district one-stop center staff, raising their awareness on this particular document, which is already officially part of the Rwanda's building code that has been approved by the cabinet, and we also trained them on the templates which would serve as a tool to implement this particular document. And the good news is that the capacity building is an ongoing process. And now recently, Rwanda Housing Authority, they have approved another set of capacity building program, which we are going to begin very soon. And the GGGI would be the delivery partner for that particular capacity building program. Now, this particular program will be looking at training architects, engineers, as well as the City of Kigali one-stop center staff on the minimum compliance requirements. So the GCF readiness project has been used as a kind of support mechanism to help take this document to the subnational level, and now we have more institutions coming in to support this capacity building process. Can we go to the next slide, please? And not just within Rwanda, we are also looking at raising the profile of Rwanda across the regional and global forums, especially what the actions that the government is taking around the built environment. So we had an opportunity to present the green building work that is going on in the country at two important regional and international events. The first one is organized by UNFCCC. These are the technical expert committee meetings on mitigation, where we presented the Rwanda Green Building Minimum Compliance System, and also the second one is the call for action for sustainable urbanization. This is being organized as a run-up to the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting, and this particular forum also provided a platform to present the fantastic work that's being done by partners like Rwanda Housing Authority around green buildings. So some of these platforms have helped us also to reach out to the audience, not just to the regional audience, but the global audience, wherein some of the statistics that we got from these organizers were, especially the Commonwealth particular webinar, it attracted our participation from close to 40 countries with more than 240 participants tuning in to listen to the work that is being done across the Commonwealth countries. Next slide, please. And the most important is raising awareness among the general public. So this readiness window has been an opportunity for us to take the benefits of green buildings to the general public. So we already have some animations that have been developed both in Kinyarwanda and English on the benefits of green buildings. So we use this the readiness program as an opportunity to advertise these animations for a duration of two weeks during prime time hours. I'm sure most of you may have noticed some of these animations. These were aired last year, but for the benefit of everyone, we are also going to play those animations right now that will demonstrate the benefits of green buildings to not just to the country, but to the building owners, to the occupants, as well as to the tenants, as well as to the project developers as well. Next slide. Can we turn on the audio?
Rapid urbanization is putting pressure on resources. The conventional construction model consumes excessive energy, water, and materials, leading to high building operational costs, poor health of occupants, and environmental degradation. Green buildings provide an opportunity to address these challenges. Buildings have to prioritize energy, water, and material efficiency solutions such as proper orientation, natural ventilation, daylighting, solar energy and cool roofs, LED lighting, rainwater harvesting, tree preservation, and locally produced building materials. Green buildings save money and provide better living and work environment for the occupants. Green buildings for a green Rwanda.
Could you also play the Kinyarwanda version, please? Okay, I think we just have the English version, but maybe we'll play the Kinyarwanda version during the coffee break as well. So with these comments, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diraj, and thank you to JP. Thank you to the online participants who are still following the discussion. We appreciate your patience. Our next presenter is from the Cleaner Production and Climate Innovation Center, Ms. Sylvie. And after her presentation, we will then open the floor for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm called Sylvie Mugarekazi. I'm the coordinator for the activities under the Cleaner Production and Climate Innovation Center. So I think by now the term is not new to you because you have been heard everyone talking about CPCIC. So that's the abbreviation for Cleaner Production and Climate Innovation Center. I have a presentation on this, so I'm going to share with you what is CPCIC and what is its mandate and achievements so far and where it is looking forward to go and what it looks to achieve with everyone. So next please. CPCIC started as a program called Resource Efficiency and Cleaner Production. It started from REMA or NDA under the support of UNIDO and UNEP. It was geared toward increasing environmental performance of industries because as the population grows, consumption and production is also increasing, as it has been mentioned by previous also presenter. Then this put pressure on natural resources, we generate more waste, but then we have the impacts, the climate change, waste management challenges that we have now, although by the milestone we are having, there's some achievement and we have a vision. We have a horizon for green growth. So these programs since 2008 have been moving and supporting the private sector in implementing resource efficient practices, reducing the impacts, the use of material, water, energy efficient practices. So since its establishment by the Cabinet in 2019, it was merged and called the Cleaner Production, but also there was another Vision Center called the Climate Innovation Center, which was mainly geared toward promoting climate and green technologies to help the private sector to adapt to the changing world and also to the climate impacts. So the CPCIC, mainly its mandate is toward promoting green technology. We are not providing we are not making green technology. We are sharing knowledge, we are sharing practices, but also if you don't have information, there is fear. So we share with the private sector what are the opportunities in improvement, mainly going green. Sometimes there is that feeling that green investment is expensive to the private sector, but toward technical assistance and awareness, we came up to a point where we can de-risk that fear of investing in green technology. Next, please. So as a state-owned enterprise, it is a government-owned enterprise established under the Line Ministry of Trade and Industry, because we need to be closer to the private sector. We are under the National Industrial Development Agency, commonly known as NIRDA. So as a company, we have a vision and also values. So we promote cleaner production, as I said, climate innovations and prosumer economy, concepts and practices. Not only talking of law, so we are moving from policy to actions with the private sector. So our mission, we would like to see our production processes, our private sector being green. We would like to see Rwanda as a country contributing to reverting the effects of the climate change. So through the private sector, but also the public, because the public also need to be engaged. If the private sector is producing, is sharing services that are green, but we are not ready as a public to consume them, then we are not going anywhere. So we are not only geared toward the private sector, but also to the public. This is through creating awareness and awareness material as the one presented by the large on building. We also have some on industry, but also on sustainable products on the market. Next, please. So as I said, since 2005, there is a milestone of achievement under the Cleaner Production and Resource Efficiency Program, which was moving from Ministry of Trade to the private sector. We have been able to reach out to industries, districts, academic institutions, sharing what is intended in resource efficiency. Why do we need energy efficient equipment, practices, changing our behavior by reducing less, reusing, recycling, and how it translates in climate actions and the impact. So by now, by 2019, that's when it was transformed into a state-owned enterprise under, and we are still under establishment. Thank you. Next, please. So as I said, we are working toward greening industry by reducing the level of consumption of natural resources. Being a successful industry does not mean to use much water, a lot of raw material, generating too much waste. That is actually a loss to the production and to the facility. So we work toward creating awareness in industry on ways of reducing the natural resource use mainly, but everything is around the natural and extraction of the material. We also, as the climate change is striking, we also work to reduce the climate impact by reducing the emissions from industry. From those different activities that are done to preserve the natural resource, the impact is also reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So we also mainstream after we prevent emissions, but when they are there, how do we manage them? Mainly solid waste management through different practices that we can call green, the normal 3R, the reuse, recycle, and reduce, the circular economy practices, how to we raise awareness on industry to create products that can be reused, that can be repaired, that is commonly known as circular economy, but also to, as I said, the public as the main consumer, they need to create profit for the private sector. They need to be aware that if a recycled plastic product is there, or if a long-lasting product is there, that is the one to go for. Not that like the single use, there have been different promotion of practices around sustainability. So we raise awareness around that. But at the end of the day, also there is a change in processes, change in technology that are used by the private sector, because they end up being the main contributor of consumption of natural resources, but also emissions. So we also discuss with the private sector on ways of doing green investment, not just going for second-hand machinery imported or elsewhere. The reuse of machinery, it needs to be indicated that it is green. It is preserving the natural resources, not generating too much waste. That is the green technology that we promote. Next, please. So in doing so, our services and technical support. So we have material that are there, that is the Cleaner Production Toolkit. In a nutshell, it encompasses practices around change of input material, where we assess what are the impacts of input, quantities, are they necessary, if there is way of reducing, what is the impact of technology that is used by the industry. Technology is the whole machinery or any process, or even the knowledge of people. Do you know that even knowledge of people can affect the productivity of an industry or of a production process? Because if people are not aware of using the equipment, then the industry end up spending too much, and loss of money. It is not just spending notes in material, in other consumables in the factory. So another element that we focus on is improving operation practices through the just changing of behavior, but also capacity building. We also see how is the products are designed, going to the market because it needs to be consumed. Sometimes changes can affect products, and private sector or for industry, they are reluctant on adopting new technology. So you need to also assess what will be the end results on the market. Will it be presentable? Will it be marketable? So we also look at it to see and how is the impact when we look at the reuse, recyclability, and repairability of the material on the market. But also, we also promote good practices on site, as I said, apart from the best practices of switching lights or other improvement. There is also having more products that are green on the market, apart from the one designed really for the industry. We also have the industrial symbiosis. We can end up having material that are no longer useful in the facility process, but they are not yet waste. So we promote industrial symbiosis by creating network, mainly between the big industry and SMEs, because they constitute a big part of the production sector as well. Next, please. So as an established company, we have a strategic goal. There are around 5. First, it is to build the center as its own because it is being new. We are in our first strategic plan, 2019-2024. So we gear toward to be a hub of knowledge on green practices, information on green technology, but also building capacity of the industry, but academia, as they have said, we are now building a relationship with the universities to have either interns or the sustainable practices included in different curriculum. We also provide business and consultant services where need be. If an industry or another market player, they need a service toward green services, they can reach out to us. Then we see ways of facilitating their transition to green practices. We also gear toward facilitating the access to finance because our local financial institution, even apart from the GCF, is a well-known fund, but also our financial institution needs to be we need to discuss with them on how to facilitate and what are the indicators to look for when for providing loan to the private sector. Because some of them, if they are green, people are reluctant, as I said, but looking at the indicator, looking at the profitability and the return on investment, this is already de-risking green investment for the private sector. So even designing projects together with the private sector, but also other national stakeholders to facilitate the green investment. We also want to build network, knowledge management and information, because as I said, cleaner production as well as the climate innovations, it is merged. There are regional and global centers that exist in other countries. So we are part of the network. It is a platform for information. That's why although we are here in Rwanda small, but we are big regionally because we have access to information from other experts. So we are also sharing them. That's why we look ourselves as a hub of information on green technologies and green practices. But also we work together. As I said, we are a private company, but we are here because we work together with the government institution also to provide, because we have information on results of action from policy, we can also influence, we look toward to be able to influence more on the policy instrument that can facilitate access to green technology. Next, please. As I said, those are different services that we provide. They are aligned to our strategic plan. Next, please. We build partnership, as I said, with different members, being part of different organizations, but also partnership with the government institution, lawmaking, law enforcement institution, technology research and publication institution like universities, but also increasing outreach and sharing other information. You can see that Cleaner Production and Climate Innovation Center is part of the RECEPNet. It's a network of other cleaner production and resource efficient center. That is the Sustainable Consumption and Production Association. Also, it exists at the East African level. We are part of the ASEA, that is the African Circular Economy Alliance, at the African Development Bank, promoting the circular economy and other regional and global networks. Next, please. So from 2008, as I said, we reached industries, we reached public institutions, districts, and other areas. So with the impacts and activities that were done in the private sector, we have worked around 4 thematics. That is energy efficiency promotion in industry, water management, material use, and waste management. When we worked with an industry, this is the case of Inyanje industry, through different improvements that they did on technology to improve compliance, but also increase profitability. They have, we marked that environmental investment should be coupled with economic benefits, but also social impacts. So through Inyanje, there is improvements. They did an improvement on the power line, where through shortage of electricity, they were having waste because they're producing food products. If there is power cuts, there is also spoilage of material, but improving on the power line installation of UPS, reducing fuel use, like transitioning from heavy fuel to diesel and other energy efficient, and even the solar energy. This is contributing to reduction of emissions, as I said, but also it is reducing waste from the production and pollution, even the cost of treating waste material. Also, water management on that side, because as a food industry, their processes are water use intensive. So having a facility for recycling of water, this also facilitates. As I said, we are not providing material, but when you discuss with a factory or an industry, you can show them what will be the impact of the investment. If you are using this, you are wasting this amount of water, you need to treat that water and you end up releasing in the environment. Why not reuse? So what will be the cost of the investment and what will be the benefit, the return on investment? So by discussing with them, then the private sector is really open to do green investment, and Inyanje was one of our success stories that we can share, and they have a lot of many other green initiatives that really are replicable. When we look at the GCF project design, as have been discussed during this project, replicability of green practices of technology is key. So if we see that it was successfully done in one factory like Inyanje, it can be done elsewhere. So where is the risk? Maybe discussions moving forward, we will see how other industry can also be part of the journey. Next, please. We did not only work with Inyanje and other industry, big one. We also have a lot of impacts done on the tea factories. That is the example of Chitali Tea Factory, where from different challenges on environment, a high consumption of electricity, that is a bill to the production cost, leakage, that is waste you produce but you don't use, it is also a cost that is wasted. Other opportunities that are not explored, there are also challenges to the factory. It's like you are fighting but you don't know with what are you fighting with. So with resource efficiency, when we do a baseline assessment on what the industry is consuming compared to another one, then we can see why this industry is not competitive to the market. As you know, prices are set by the market. And if you are selling water, sometimes the price should be the same to be competitive. But if one facility is producing at a loss, and another one it is at average, they will go back with money but not with the same profit. So through the resource efficiency and also cleaner production promotion, we want to having a benchmark. What is the baseline really to have 1 liter of milk if the cost is to be 500 Rwandan francs? So with that benchmark, there is comparability and where to improve. So that's what we promote. Next, please. So from when I said process improvement, that is a boiler that is producing heat in the processing industry. And when you see that it is white, that is insulation. Insulation is one practice that is needed. You know how a vacuum flask works. They keep hot water for some time, but if it is not efficient, you will touch and see that heat is being lost. So that's also happened at an industry. That is 1 flask for 1 liter of water, but industry is producing steam in tons. And if they are losing heat, yet they have used either fuel, either biomass to produce that heat, that is lost. So through showing them that if you invest this amount of money and you improve this process, this will be your return. You have return in 3 years, you no longer have losses. Yeah, so that is what we discuss with them. We go on site. It is facility-based technical support. Not what is better to one facility might not be better to yours, because you don't have either the same capacity of people, same capacity of production. You can say, maybe I'm going also to do the insulation, but you are producing 1,000 liters of water. Another one did an investment, same investment, but he's producing 1 metric ton of hot water. So you cannot have the same return. So it is based, tailor-made to each facility and each industry. And next, please. And different to each options that we are proposing, we do the same action. We need to look what is the environmental impact, what is the economic benefit, and if possible, also there should be social impact, creating green job to the industry. So those are different good practices that are implemented in industry. There is one track that was from scrap, but also they made a trailer. That is one simple example of circularity, circular economy. What is in our waste? There is value in our waste, and we can value those waste into new products. Before I close, as my colleague Jean-Pierre mentioned, we benefited from the GCF support project through development of our stakeholders, engagement, strategic plan, because we were having a new strategic plan. So we also had support through this project to be able to engage and be closer to our to the public, but also to our clients. Now we have social media coverage. We have, as I said, a strategic plan for stakeholders engagement. We are also able to reach out to more people, nationally, but also regionally and globally. So we really appreciate the support from the project, the guidance from GGGI, but also REMA, who are always closer to us, because as she said, the representative from REMA, private sector, they are solution maker. So if you have only policies without actions, we will not move anywhere toward addressing climate change impacts. So I would like to thank everyone and call also everyone to act on these climate change impacts through different activities. It is not one-man journey, it is for everyone. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sylvie, for that insightful presentation. Thank you also for your practical examples. I am taking note of time for our agenda. As you can see, there's a lot of information that we need to digest today. But what we'll do is we'll make sure we circulate all the presentations to our online participants and the participants that are joining us today in the room. So we're going to open the floor for any questions. We will start with our participants online. Do we have any questions online, Grace? No? Okay, so we will open the floor to our participants in the room. Please raise your hand. We have a roving microphone. I'll ask you to introduce yourself, which institution you represent, and then who are you directing your question to? Do you have any questions? Grace?
Thank you very much. I'm called Emmanuel Nyamaro. I'm a senior economist at the SCAT project. So I appreciate so much the presentation which has been done here. So I have one question for the last presenter. She talked about the green solutions in the industrial level. So I have one question, a particular question about the industrial level. For instance, she mentioned about the tea factories, how they use the wood and the proposed solution for the wood consumptions. So in SCAT also have a particular projects for the brick production. Most of them still using the wood, and we know that it is a problematic even if we're proposing some solutions by waste like soda, coffee husks. But still, it is a challenge. Now, in her presentation, she mentioned something like a solution they did in the Nyange factories. Now, my question is, how do you balance this? Do you think there is always a balance between replacing the old technology with the new one you are proposing? If there is no balance, so who's taking care? Who's paying this loss for industrial, let's say, new solution you're proposing? For instance, if it is replacing the machine or whatever, and if it doesn't balance to get return on investment. So what is other solutions for industry or mechanisms do you propose to resolve such solution? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the good questions. They are really pertinent. So on the questions of wood consumption, of course, currently we cannot. Energy is still a challenge, and we don't have a final solution to consumption of wood in terms of generating energy, because that is the one way. And as you mentioned, wood, there is also other alternative to wood, which are waste from agriculture, which are now being used, waste from wood processing, like sawdust. But the problem is currently on emissions. What we promote in that way, there are improvements of processes. How can we increase efficiency? Is the consumption of wood, like in different projects that you are monitoring, what is the baseline to have 1 cubic meter of maybe bricks, burnt brick? Are they competitive? Then looking at that, we can coming up with a solution. What can we propose to make this process more efficient? First, of course, it will depend on the material, on the market. Sometimes an industry can choose to go to work on, I cannot say it is a loss, it is a challenge. So to that investment, sometimes there is a need for heavy investment that are not directly available to the facility. So then we will design projects, go to bank to see how this can be availed. And when we go also to green investment, there is a high risk. There is a risk at financial institutions where they see maybe there is low return. But if calculations are well done, like the cost-benefit analysis, and also public is aware, because elsewhere in other parts, sustainable products are just consumed because they are produced in an environmental manner. We just don't buy what is cheap if it is not environmentally friendly. So we are also working to promote to the public to raise awareness that they work toward consumption of sustainable products that are environmental friendly, because this will also, it comes at a cost, but we know at which cost, because we want the world to be natural resource to be available for the future. So we cannot just have the leisure of consuming wood because they are available now. We need to reduce. So that will entail a cost that we need to bear with. But I don't know if I responded well to what you said about who will bear the cost. It is about efficiency. Consumption is there and the industry is not there. It is there. It is for improvement that we are working. And RECEP is voluntary when you have seen the benefit. So we cannot just say this one will bear the risk or will bear the loss, but everyone is attempting to improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvie, and thank you for the question. I think it's a very comprehensive process that we all are still trying to understand. Thank you for elaborating. Do you have any more questions in the room? Please raise your hand. Okay, so we do have a question online from our representative from the Green Climate Fund. Please can you unmute and let us know who you would like to ask the question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the great presentations. Very interesting presentation indeed. And I would like to, take what the last presenter just said, that the private sector is solution maker. And here I would like to also mention that this year is actively supporting private sector development, private sector engagement in climate change projects. The challenges that we are facing are unprecedented, and public money alone would not be able to address the economic crisis and develop some paradigm shifting project for developing countries. This is why it is important to actively involve the private sector in climate change projects. And this year, in recent updated strategic plan has decided to significantly increase the resources allocated to private sector to make sure that we de-risk the investment for them and attract them into sustainable investing. So we strongly encourage countries like Rwanda to involve the private sectors in climate change projects. This is a comment I wanted to make. Now I have a question for the first two presenters, and the question is more about country ownership or sustainability. You have developed a lot of frameworks and a lot of output from the implementation of the readiness proposal. Now, how do you really ensure that it doesn't end there, right after the implementation of the proposal? And what are the different mechanisms that will be put in place to ensure that there will be a strong exit strategy for the proposal? And the last comment I wanted to make was about the local authority. It is also important to involve them, because at the end of the day, when the policies are decided at the national level, we need to implement them at the local level as well. So this is why it is important to have strong stakeholder engagement, as you did, and make sure that they understand what we are talking about and how they can be fully involved. Otherwise, I would like to say thank you so much. And I would like to acknowledge my colleague Olade, who is the regional officer in charge of the readiness program at the Africa desk. I would like to invite him if he has some few words to say to come. Thank you so much for your great presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banga. Olade, if you have any comments, the floor is yours. Welcome. Olade, can you hear us?
Great, we may proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Banga, I believe your question was directed to the GGGI presenters, JP. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And first, I thank you for the constructive comment you provided on the stakeholder or the local authorities engagement, and also the country ownership of what you are doing as GCF readiness and how this can be assured the continuity. Actually, the answer would come from the last observation you made. Whatever we do, we don't start from scratch, but we first listen to what the people want. I can give like a process we use to develop those proposals. We go through the government institutions, we see what the government is planning, what are the policies, strategies, and we pick a topic. But in terms of continuity, as I saw the presentation, we started from strategic planning. The strategic planning was about if Rwanda aimed to become a green economy or low carbon, zero carbon economy by 2050, and has put that in the Vision 2050. And now in the 7-year government program,
it is said to have to do green and climate resilient cities to increase population in urban areas at 35 level. These are visionary or strategic orientation, but how to be done is what we unlock and search for the support of this fund of readiness now to see if the two orientation are there, how sectors, we have actually more than 12 or 13 sectors, but we pick what are really important, including urbanization. Now, urbanizing, our president, His Excellency Paul Kagame said, do or not, people will come in urban areas. You better get prepared to accommodate them, because it is where opportunities are, either for job, for access to economic opportunities, but also social. So what we do is to make sure that we don't plan people will come. We better plan so that we manage the development. So it starts by planning, strategic and physical and spatial planning. We have a small country, but we populate more than 12, now projected to 22 million. So how people will be settled and operate in that small country is the first step that we use. We said we better plan the land use in the first readiness we delivered as GGGI in Rwanda. It was about land use planning, but also trying to see where potential projects can be implemented. But still, these are at, if I may say, at a high technical and other, there's technicalities that you cannot go to the ground now, to the lower level, to the local people, to ask them to translate. This is where we get a second now to go and show them in practice what is meant by a green city, what is meant by a well-connected or integrated neighborhood or settlement. So this kind of things we do, we always make sure that at least we speak what people understand and speak what the government wants. So we are sure that whatever we provide, whatever we recommend is actually responding to the needs, but we do show them how to do that. So being the project closing or continuing, we are sure that we are actually showing people what to do to achieve what they think can be done better for their benefit. So the continuity or the sustainability of what we do is founded on that principle of supporting already what is planned, not bringing new ideas, but trying to support the implementation and at all levels, because what the minister is saying is not what the mayor is saying, is not what the sector leader is saying, is not what the village leader is saying, but still the vision is the same, is to protect the environment and to ensure that the economy is responsible, is not contributing to climate change. In that sense, this is how we ensure our continuity of our sustainability of what we do.
Thank you very much, JP. Mr. Banga, does that answer your question? I can see that your colleague Olade is back online. No? Okay. We do have another question in front, Grace. Please raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, JP, for that comprehensive answer. I just wanted to make an additional comment to that question, because this is something important, not only for us in playing the role of a delivery partner for the readiness and support, but also for most of us who are here in the room and online, because for you to see results, projects or programs needs to have good exit strategies, but also ensure sustainability. Some of the lessons we've learned, not only from this readiness, but also when it comes to past readiness, is that most of the executors or implementers, most of the key stakeholders are institutions or agencies or even bodies that are backed by law. You know, take for example, when we talk of environmental committees, you know, they are not just a group of people put together randomly. These are, you know, people that are appointed based on laws that are right at the top from the prime ministerial order. When you talk of institutions, both at the national and subnational level, and the standards or policies that are backing them, they are all institutions or laws that are made by the government. So there is that level of continuity. But what we try to do most times is to say, since at the institutional level, this continuity moves on, but at the individual level, in terms of who mans this institution, we try to check, both within our work as a country program, whether there has been changes in those individuals to say, how do you ensure that the pattern is handed over from one manager to the other, or from one group of people, in order to refresh their memories in terms of what has been learned. So I just wanted to put this point clear that there has been that, I should say, we are fortunate that in Rwanda, institutions matter. So the readiness project activities that are carried out are easily integrated, whether it be in the sector of work during the fiscal year planning, or even in refining or renewing old policies that has to meet with the government's progressive development. I just wanted to add that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of time, we would like to ask you to join us for a coffee break. It will only be 10 minutes, and then we will ask you to come back in for the panel discussion that we're going to have, and then we will close the workshop. So please allow yourself to stretch a bit for 10 minutes, and then we will have our panel discussion. For the online participants, we do have a GCF video that we're going to be playing for you during the coffee break, and then after 10 minutes we will resume to the next round of the panel discussion. Thank you.